Okay, welcome back. This won't take too long. You're probably able to set up most of the variables for this one. It's just a matter of doing the algebra because, again, you notice here what you're solving for is the interest rate, not an amount or a principal. So the algebra gets a little more complicated. But let's run through it together. So we're told the initial investment's $1,150, so that's going to be our principal. And we're told how much it's worth after 4 years, so that's going to be our amount, 2,208 and 69 cents. So just going to go ahead and put those values in the equation right now. Okay, so there's a couple ways of going about this one. You can solve for I first, knowing that I is going to be the interest rate per compounding period, then convert it to a yearly one, because again, it's asking for the annual interest rate. Or you can just put it into the equation directly as some annual interest rate divided by 2 because it's semi-annual. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But first, let's deal with n. So we know it's 4 years compounded semi-annually, which is twice a year. So we have 4 years times twice a year, so n is going to be equal to 8. Okay, and just for the purpose of just doing everything all at once, I'm just going to remind myself here for I that I is going to be some annual interest rate, which I'm going to call R, and it's going to be divided by 2. So I'm just going to put it in directly as that instead of solving for I first, just so I can solve. The algebra is going to be a little more complicated, but I'll be able to solve for R directly. So what I'm going to have now is I'm going to have 1 plus R over 2, all to the exponent of 8, my n. Okay, so again, what's going to happen here is then I'm going to do a lot of algebra to try and isolate for R. And as complicated as it looks, just a matter of undoing the equation to get R by itself. So you've probably done some of this algebra before when we were doing exponential functions last unit, but again, let's run through it together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide everything by 1,150. I can't deal with this exponent of 8 right now because this 1150 doesn't have that exponent. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 1,150. Okay, and I'm not going to run it through my calculator because I don't want to lose any accuracy. So I'm going to have 2208.69 over 1150. And that's going to be equal to 1 plus R over 2, all to the exponent 8. Okay, now when I'm down to this part, now I can deal with this exponent of 8. And how do I get rid of an exponent of 8? Well, I take the 8th root. So I'm going to take the 8th root of both sides of the equation. And as ugly as it's going to look, it's just going to be a bunch of numbers I can run through my calculator eventually. So over here, I'm going to have the 8th root of 2208.69 over 1150. And over here, since I've gotten since that 8th root gets rid of that exponent of 8, I'm just going to have 1 plus R over 2. Okay, so it's starting to look a little bit nicer. I know the left side looks ugly, but again, it's just calculator work at this point. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides now. Okay, so now the left side of my equation is going to be that 8th root of 2208.69 over 1150 minus 1, and that's going to be equal to R over 2. Okay, and then last but not least, what's left to do? Well, it's R divided by 2. How do I get rid of division by 2? Well, I simply multiply by 2. So I multiply the right side of the equation by 2. I have to multiply the left side of the equation by 2 as well. Okay, so again, it's going to look ugly, but it's just going to be calculator work. On the right side of the equation, I'm just going to have R, which is what I want. Okay, the left side is going to be 2 times that whole thing. So the 8th root of 2208.69 over 1150 minus 1. Okay, so once I can run all that through my calculator, I should be able to get my annual interest rate. So take some time, run it through, see what you get. So to 2 decimal places, I get 0.17, which winds up being, as a percentage, 17%. Okay, if you're having trouble, if you're good up to here, you're having trouble getting it with your calculator, come see me, and I'll run through it with you just to make sure we can get it to work. But your annual interest rate here should be 17%. Okay, so that's it. That's all. There's some practice questions here. Again, work through them, especially when it comes to getting the right values for I and n in the equation. It is the most common mistake I see, and with practice it becomes quite straightforward, but again, it does take that practice. So work through that, and then after this is really just one lesson left in the course. So we're almost there, and we'll see you over there for lesson 30 when you're ready. Okay, cheers.